All of us are here in life in an unfolding story. Some twists, some turns, you never know what's going to happen or who's going to cross your path. We are here with season 2 of Power Creatives TV. I'm your host, Shiloh Sophia, and I have in the cafe with me someone I adore, Luisah Teish. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Shiloh. It's really amazing to be here with you.
It is amazing.
It's really amazing.
I can't think of a better person to kick off this season of herstory, where women are defining not only history as it's known, but defining our own story on our own terms. And our story goes quite a few years back when our paths crossed.
Yeah.
And I thought how amazing it would be to share with all of you in this alchemical cafe. We're having our afternoon sweetness. I call this breast milk from the mother. It's coffee, but it's really like nursing for me. And we are here having a moment where we get to share our stories with you. So what have you been up to? What's happening? What you working on?
Whoa. Well, you know, I'm one of those people who I have 13 works in progress in the computer. And it's gotten to the place now where I go to the computer, I open any folder and
drop
write
in
anything for an hour. For a while, I was trying to say, well, I'm only going to work on this, I'm only going to work on that, and to be very orderly and left brain about it. But what has started happening is that the characters in this folder walk out and step into that story. And so there's this whole big thing. This whole big thing is developing, and more and more it makes me realize that I am just their pencil.
I love that.
You know, the characters they're real, and they're just sort of letting me put some words down so that I know who they are.
So she's just delivered 5 teachings in about 10 seconds. So I hope you caught all that. I just want to go back for a moment to what you said about having the different folders. Like, that's a teaching. That's part of what Power Creatives TV is to translate our story, what comes natural to us who are living a life of creativity that can be translated and used. Because so often we're caught in the tyranny of the focus. I can't tell you how many people say, well, why don't you just focus on the no. But that is a natural, organic way for a creative to work.
That's right.
13 folders at a time.
13 folders at a time. And, you know, at first I don't realize that they're so related to each other, you know, because the left brain, I'm one of those people who can outline a book in 20 minutes. And I have the order, and it'll go just like this. But then when I start writing, the storyteller wakes up and she says, actually, this don't go there.
Yeah.
You know, this flows into that way, and this character belongs over here. Sometimes, if I'm really just open, you know, a most poetic line will fall in my lap, and then I put it down, and then it tells on. One of the wonderful things that's been happening to me lately is, you know, I've been a solo storyteller since 1977. I had many years of directing a theater group and many years of being a choreographer with 30 dancers and so on and so forth. And then one day it occurred to me that I could do this by myself because everything was a story. And so I learned at this point now I can embody 9 different characters and really make it work. But the wonderful thing that has happened for me recently, all those years I was being very careful not to appropriate anybody else's culture, so I only told stories came out of Africa, you know, out of Afro-Latin, Afro-Caribbean, etc. But the last 10 years I have had people from other cultures come to me and say, I'd like to hear your take on Persephone's descent. I'd like to hear your take, on this one. What would you do with that one? And what was really wonderful, I went to a senior citizen center, ostensibly to take they were offering a course in millinery and making hats. It didn't happen. I got in there, somebody in there kind of knew who I was. They said, please tell us a story. And so I started, weaving these tales. And an almost ancient Chinese woman came up to me and she said, I want to tell you something. And she told me that when she was a little girl, they used to go to the Yellow River, I think she said, and they made these little paper lanterns with a candle in it. And she said, you stand there and you tell the candle all your regrets and all your sorrows and all of that. She said, and then as you toss it in the river, you say, Goddess, forget about it.
I love that.
And I said, her name is Goddess, forget about it? Goddess, forget about it, right?
Oh my God.
And I told that to Devorah, another colleague of ours, and she actually found the name of that goddess.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she's one of those kind of like Tyra and kind of like Lakshmi and kind of like the goddesses of compassion and beauty, and where you just you release, So I'm starting to feel like maybe I now know enough about story that I can tell everybody's story with no fear of misinterpretation or stereotype or anything.
Which would only come after a lifetime of storytelling, and ritual theater, and writing, and teaching.
That's right.
That's beautiful. I love that idea because it's really been a practice.
It is.
Right?
It is. It's a sacred practice.
And how did storytelling come into your life?
Oh, listen. I will make this a tribute to my mother, who crossed last January. When I was a little girl, my mother used to put a blanket out on the front lawn. We had St. Augustine grass and a weeping willow tree that made it. The weeping allowed you to treat it like a house. You part the leaves, the weeping leaves, and go in. And there was this hut, And we would put a blanket down, and my mother would, she'd say, imagine it, South New Orleans, on the blanket, twilight, the light bugs are coming out. And my mama would say, baby, the other day, I was walking around the way, and I came up on Old Man Carter's well, she said. And the sun had set, and I heard somebody crying in the well, come help me, come help me, come help me. And when I went to the well, I looked down there, and in that well was Brer Rabbit. She said, Brer Rabbit had fell down in that well, and he said, help me, get me up out of here. And I said, Brer Rabbit, if I get you out of that well, what you gonna give me, right? And he said, do you like cheese? I said, yeah, I love cheese. He said, well, you see here, I got a whole wheel of green cheese, and if you just lower that bucket and help me up out of here, I'll give you this whole wheel of green cheese. She said, I put down everything I had, and I lowered the bucket, and he climbed in, and I pulled him, and I pulled him, and I pulled him. And when he got to the top, he jumped out of the bucket, and he grabbed my stuff and started running. And I said, Brer Rabbit, why are you stealing my stuff? Where's my green cheese? And he said, look back down in the well, and the ring that she thought was his green cheese was a reflection of the moon in the water. She told me stories as if they happened around the corner to her yesterday. And it wasn't until she was doing that when I was 5 or 6. It wasn't until I was 19 that I looked in a book of African American folklore and I saw Brer Rabbit and the moon. The moon is made of green cheese.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I've heard lots of your stories. I've never heard that one. That is beautiful.
It's amazing. So, you know, I look at the truth that everything that I am is the outgrowth of a seed that she planted. The storyteller, the dancer, the writer, the cook, the gardener, the community organizer, all of that is something she dropped the seed.
And what is her name?
Serena Scott Allen.
Serena Scott Allen.
Yes.
We're sending this across to you in your cosmos.
Yes.
That you heard the stories being told around the fire. Oh, I love that. And I love that. And those of you who are storytellers or who are parents, that is another teaching right there from your mom, to bring the context of the story into the immediacy of your neighborhood.
That's right.
I love that. That's so beautiful.
And it was, you know, it was homeschooling in that oftentimes, you know, when I was coming up, the children were supposed to be seen and not heard, right? And so the adults taught you by telling you proverbs. Almost any question that you asked had a proverbial answer, or I remember I could be sitting in the living room, minding my own business, you know, and my mother would come up to me with a wrinkle in her brow and her hands on her hips, and she'd look me up and down and she'd say, "All right now, don't be like the bulldog in the hay," and she'd walk away. And I'm going, what? What? Don't be like the bulldog in the hay. Now, what on earth was the bulldog doing in the hay?
Right.
I said, "Mama, what was the bulldog doing in the hay?" She said, "When you figure it out, don't do it."
Oh my gosh. I love that. That's so awesome. Oh my gosh. Did you ever figure it out?
No. I still don't know.
Still don't know.
I still don't know.
What I love about that too is that sense of activity, and without inquiry, it doesn't actually function.
Yeah.
And I love that she was provoking you to unanswerable questions.
That's right.
That got your mind to function in a way that simply doesn't if we don't invite the young ones or us now to engage in this potential.
You got to. And once you do, you know, once you ask the artistic why, all kinds of things come falling in it. It's as if the Muse is waiting for you to ask her one of the W's. What? Who? When? Now? Right. Oh my God! You want me to do something right now? Huh?
Yeah.
And a lot of wonderful things come out. I want to take this moment to thank and acknowledge you, Shiloh, as the woman who healed a childhood wounding that I had when I was a little girl. My mother bought me some watercolors, you know, and I used to mess around with them and did all kinds of things. And back then there was a matchbox. You used to say, "Draw me." There'd be a puppy or something, and you draw it. Remember those? The LaSalle School. And you send that in. They send you a test. You take the test, and I took it. And one day this man shows up at the house, and he sits down and he talks with my father, and he says, "You know, your daughter has potential as an artist. We want to enroll her in our school. It will cost da-da-da-da-da." And I remember my father sat there and he said, When the man got up, he went in the room and he took all my art stuff and put it in the barrel, poured coal oil on it, burned it. And he said, don't waste your time and my money trying to be no artist. Learn how to be a damn good maid. And it was like, it was like a knife in my heart, you know, and it was like, woo. And
wow.
What is really important to say here is be careful about internalizing oppression. Because years later, when somebody gave me a painting set, I called myself doing a still life. I had a bottle, a wine bottle with a candle in it and a lemon and 2 strawberries, and I set a board on top of the radiator with a piece of fabric, and I started painting. And when I got ready to put the flame on the candle, my hand did this.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I destroyed the painting. I mean, I messed it all up.
Gosh.
And so I had these misadventures, these little shameful things where I would draw something and hide it in the closet, or I'd draw something and tear it up. And I must have told that story because there came a day when you came to my house, I'll never forget it. I can never forget it. And you said, Teish, today you are going to heal.
Did I really?
Yes, you did. You said, today you are going to heal. And you said, the problem is you've been looking out there trying to paint what you see out there. And I want you to paint what's in here. And she made me close my eyes and dip my brush in something and stick it to the canvas and start moving. Then you said, now open your eyes and keep working. And I mean, it's amazing because what emerged was this goddess came up out, coming out of her body.
I remember that.
And I am so amazed. And she had the cosmos right here in her heart. And I'm really amazed, not only because after that day, I painted every night for a month and got into painting, but that painting is now the cover to a book, an anthology on the works of Octavia Butler. And I've been drawing and painting ever since. And so thank you so much. I mean, it was like, you declared, you're going to heal today, baby. It was like, I said, yes, ma'am. I said, yes, ma'am.
I remember that day so well. A part of the story I remember is that you had these big canvases and you were going to give them to me. And I said, well, don't you want to paint on them? And you said, no. And I said, well, if I'm going to take the canvases, we're going to paint. Like, how am I going to teach? Like, what am I going to do? And this is long time ago. I can't remember how long, but it was a long time. And so I remember being so nervous and then walking into your home, which is a temple. And I think you had another big, beautiful black Yoruban chieftain woman there. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. And we were outside and we had water hoses and listening to music on a tape cassette. And
I had no idea you were nervous. Let me tell you, you were completely in command. If you were nervous, that did not show in the slightest.
I was there to serve.
Yes. And I mean, you said it very clearly, because I remember when you said, Luisah Teish, today you're going to heal. I said, oh, she's pulling a Teish on me. That's what
that might have been I might have had a strategy there somewhere.
It's just amazing. You know, and I really want to thank you for that, because right now I'm about to publish a coloring book.
Well, I would love to make it available to our community.
Well, you know,
and that's where I started.
You know, off the top, baby. It is really a testament to what happens when there's the combination of creativity, compassion, and courage. Those the 3 C's.
Ooh, gave me the chilies. That was beautiful.
The 3 C's.
It's just, when I think about our community, we are in a council of women on different spiritual paths, and there was a time when we all taught at a college together, and I remember there was a possibility of me not being able to return. But I am working artist, which is its own kind of degree. And I remember you stood for me and you surprised me and you said, she's the real deal.
That's
I remember you saying that and I was like, yeah, I'm the real deal. We got to, keep this art in there. And you really stood for me. And I always was humbled by that. And by the grace of the mother, I was able to stay sort of under the radar of the system and continue to work with our students to bring the image of the feminine.
Right.
Because when I first got there, most of the images were the historical images of the feminine. I was like, hey, what if we could make our own images of her? What if we make her in our image? Because I'm pretty sure those images of the goddess, they were making in their image.
That's right. Definitely.
Well, I love that. And you went on to keep painting for a while.
Oh, baby, I have not stopped. It's really been amazing because it opened up not only that, but the freedom and the courage. A few years ago, my work was featured in a science fiction magazine, Cascadia Subduction Zone, the magazine is called. And you know how they ask you to write your artist statement?
Right.
Well, the only thing I could say is, I am an octopus, okay? I stand here in front of the canvas and I do this. And wherever my arm lands, that goes into it. So I have one painting that started out, I was just cleaning the paintbrush on the canvas. Appeared, right? And by the time I got through with it, it was a winged goddess looming over two African girls who were dancing. And one of the girls' skirt was made of a piece of burlap that I had. Somebody's belly was a button. And just all these things. And the goddess is out of her wings. Out of one wing is coming copper pennies, and out of the other wing is coffee beans. And I was just doing.
So they're just arising.
Yeah.
Now, does it occur for you similar to when a story is emerging? How is it distinct from the painting emerging as a story and the way that you would normally work with a storytelling?
Okay, with a story, you start out with something. You start out with either an old story or an idea about a story. Any time I'm telling stories out of the African diaspora, I do what I call returned tales, so that I take the old story and update it so that people can see what the relevance is for today. So if that story talked about the volcano erupting, I might name that as the nuclear power plant,
right? So
that they see that this is still connected, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes, so then you have something to work with. You have a once upon a time, or an in the beginning, and a did they live happily ever after, and all kinds of stuff to play with in between. But other times, I just sit down and something comes in. Okay, something comes in. I don't with the painting and with the mixed media stuff, I don't ever remember saying, okay, now I'm going to draw a bird.
Right. It just comes through.
It just comes. My hand starts moving. I see something, and and then I draw it. Once in a while, I've looked down at the rug or at the curtain and thought I saw a face in it, and so I sort of draw what I saw there. But most often, it's something coming up out of consciousness. It really is.
I love that. And then once it emerges, does it tell a story?
Usually it does.
Usually.
See, that's one of the things about the coloring book that I'm doing that is kind of like, I think you did that too, where here's the image, and I invite the person, the reader, to look at this image, draw into it if you want to, put words in it, make stories around it, so that they get fully involved in a creative process. Right. Because of the 63 drawings, I started out Zen doodling. Yeah. You know, of the 63 pieces, I'm going to choose 35. There's not one of them where I said, okay, I'm going to draw a bird. No. Yeah. I just started making motions with the pen, and then what I really love about it is if I think I'm making circles and my hand slips, then I just keep doing that until it becomes something else.
What if we did that in our life?
Yeah, it'd be a lot better. It would be a lot easier.
And so do you feel like for you, and certainly for me, creativity has been healing? You know, we're dealing with a lot of things in the world right now in need of healing. How would you describe creativity? Like, how does it actually work? What makes creating, coloring, painting, what makes it healing for us as souls? Because I know you've studied healing your whole life. What is it about it that actually could make that available?
Well, for me, and for most of the work that I do, it's about being open and vulnerable, trusting, and committed. You know, I'm not going to do, there was a terrible thing that I used when I was young and foolish, which was, I killed poetry. You know, this was the self-destruct period where I burned my painting, where I bulk erased my tapes, where that internalized depression kept me undoing stuff. And I was telling a young poet the other day, I actually remember a time when I'd be walking home from work and a poem would come into my ear. And I was still operating out of left brain, so I said, well, when I get home, I'm going to write this poem down. However, right now, let me punctuate it, because my advanced comp teacher was sitting on my shoulder, right? Let me punctuate. And then by the time I got home, I had the punctuation, but not the words, right? Right. Yeah, lost the words, kept the punctuation. And then I became so busy doing so many other important things that these poems would come, and I said, get away from me. I ain't got time for you. I got to go do this. Poem, go away. After story, I don't want to see you. And one day, and this is the kind of head I have, one day, they were coming at me, and I saw myself take a knife and start killing my poems. I said, wait a minute, are you crazy? What are you doing? Stop. There is nothing over there that you're doing. It is so important that you don't have a minute. So now I carry a little notebook, and anytime something pops in, I make a note so that I can at least remember what it was that came through. Now, this might be a good time to confess and to warn friends and students. I am an idea thief. Sometimes somebody will say something, and I say, are you going to use that? Can I use that? That was a wonderful line. That's a great idea. Don't let it fall in the compost, because I will pick it up. You know, and most of the time people will say, oh, Teish, it ain't nothing. I say, Can I have a statement in writing from you? Because when I turn this into something, I don't want you up in my face saying that I plagiarized. Okay? Give it to me now. And I think most people, especially those who have not committed to the creative process, don't understand that the muse is just dripping off of them. Yeah. She's drenching them and they say something, and I go, oh, the character for that story is blah, 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 blah. Or I'll be working on something, and it's almost as if the person sitting next to me reads on a vibrational level, and they say something that fits right in with my story.
Yeah.
And then I have to say, get out of my head. Get off of me.
You know what you're just making me think of is, though, when people are with you, when we're together and we're open to the creative fire, that's a mutual arising. And so chances are people are more poetic and funny and brilliant when they're in your presence.
It's true. It's true.
Because of how you're listening. Because you're listening with the ears of a storyteller and a poet. And they are, you have that framework. That's your the lens you look at the world through, but they aren't recognizing the beauty.
Right.
But you're actually calling it out because you're listening for that.
Oh yeah.
Right? Your muse is listening all the time.
All the time. Well, somebody was talking about their lover, and she said, "He is my oil and my glue." I said, "Give me that. I'm finna work with that, baby. If you're not gonna do nothing with that, right?" And just things like that fall through. Yeah. What I love, what I absolutely, actually I'm quite proud of this. There is an assignment that I give to my students. It comes out of one of the sacred stories in West African orature. And I take the components of the story apart and give it to the people as an assignment. I do what my mama did. I say, put yourself in this story, right? And as a result of that, I have one student whose story her short story ended up in a science fiction anthology. I have another one who wrote a novel based on that assignment. So as a teacher, it seems to me that my job is to take this, what others would think of as esoteric, sacred orature, and make it intelligible and pliable to everyday people. And then the thing I love most is turning it into ritual theater, where you not only hear it, write it, but then you act it, feel it, embody it, you know. I love it.
I love that. That sounds amazing.
It is. It's beautiful.
And so how blessed someone is to be your student, that you have the opportunity to point them to this potential happening within them. And so what would be something that our viewers could do if they wanted to write a story? Are there some little tips and tricks for the muse you can pass on, so that my hope is that after you complete with us, that you'll get your spark up and that you will take your pen to the page?
So the first thing you have to do is not be afraid of white space. You know, a lot of people look at a piece of paper and they are terrified. Okay? No. The second thing you have to do is know that you can't do anything wrong. Get rid of the word wrong. Okay? And I'm about to give you $1 million secret.
All right, ready.
I have a friend who you probably have too, and her name is Be Perfect. You know B? Okay. And what you have to do with B is you have to make a little doll. You can roll up some paper or some cloth or something and put a little face on it. And this is Be Perfect, your inner critic who won't let you do anything. Okay. And so you pull back the covers and you lay B on the pillow. And you say, baby, you take a nap now. And you pull the fabric up over her head. And you go and you write whatever it is that you want to write. And after it's written, then you say, yo, B, I got a job for you. Come in here. And then you let her critique what you have written.
So not during the creative process,
Not during
after,
after
like more discernment and
exactly. Let her come in and polish, but you cannot have her on your shoulder saying, "You can't do that. That sentence ain't right. Where is this gonna go?" No, 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 no. Oftentimes, I tell people, if you are about to engage in a battle with white space, and some people think of it that way, first thing you need to do is relax. It ain't that deep, okay? It's not really World War V, okay? You relax. I often tell people it is good to put 3 bay leaves in a cup, pour some scalding hot water on it, and inhale the scent of bay leaf, right? Inhale the scent of bay leaf, and then on page 1, you write to yourself, this is what I want to write about. I want to talk about the day that I was sitting down by the levee at the river and such a thing happened. And just talk to yourself about it. And then page 2 is, this is how I want to write it. Well, I think this might be a good poem. If it's a poem, then it would kind of go like this. But if it's a short story, I think the short story would go this way. If this is a play, I wonder what other, and talk to yourself about the form, content, and then form. And then if you keep doing that, something emerges. Very important rule here now.
Okay.
Get yourself a high-priced, expensive wastebasket. Line it with lavender-scented trash bags. Okay. Place it on a beautiful rug next to your desk and make a pledge that nothing wet goes in there, nothing torn goes in there, nothing balled up goes in there. Nothing goes in there but things that you've written and printed out. And so it goes like this. I wrote this. Oh my God, this is awful. This is not good writing. This is trash. And so you throw it in your special trash bin, right? And nothing goes in there but that.
I love that.
6 months later, dig in that trash and lay out them pages and get a green pen and outline certain paragraphs that stand out. And when you lay them out, you'll see the story.
Ooh, I love that. That is
You lay them out, you'll see the story. It's really amazing.
I love that. Notice the lavender scented and the green pen and all of that is just so amazing.
It's part of the whole process. Lavender to relax you, right? The green to go, it's going to grow. A lot of editors use a red pen. No, that's inspiring anger, you know. But a green pen says that this is fertile. I've thrown it in the compost, right? And then I go back in here. The piece that I'm working on now, I can tell you, I first wrote the story, the seed of the story, in 1973. And it was really simple. I was sleeping in my sister's attic at the time. I had a typewriter. And in the middle of the night, I jumped up and I wrote, Summer rode lazily down the muddy Mississippi, funeral parlor fans and iced tea fought the bayou heat and mosquito, while Desiree and Cora Sue, my piping hot sauce on barbecue meat, and Imelda moaned of her condition to a bowl of yellow potato salad. It was always hot in summer, it was always quiet in summer when everybody was too busy to bother about other people's business. And I wrote that. And I said, what the hell are you talking about, right? And I tossed it aside. I just put it aside. Months later, I started on a story. I got to a place where I didn't know what to do. And I realized the names that I had in this page were the same names in that paragraph, right? And so I dug that paragraph out and I put it there. And then I went on with the story. that story remained a 3-page story from 1980 until 2 years ago. When I started writing these, this is those folders.
Yeah.
I started writing it again, and now it's 13 pages on its way to being a novella. So you don't ever throw anything away. Don't ever throw anything away. Your consciousness is trying to tell you something. Those characters are growing.
And are they working in the background even when you're not paying attention? Like, can you dip back in after 10 years and all of a sudden you see all the stuff they've been up to while you've been away?
That's exactly what's going on. That's why don't throw nothing away. Don't throw nothing away, because for me, just like people from other cultures are starting to ask me to tell stories from their culture, I remember saying, "Oh, okay, so now, Teish, you know, your legacy as an elder, you know, your legacy is to write the stories of the ancestors, right? Okay." And so my sister, out of the blue, who don't talk to me that often, don't really know what I'm up to, she sends me the lineage on my father's side of the family going back to 1780. And I thought, oh, she did my research for me, right? And so I started looking at that. Well, now I got to find Mama's side. And then I started doing that work. And then the voice said, I didn't say write the stories of your ancestors. I said write the stories of the ancestors.
Oh. Beautiful. So instructions getting clearer.
Clearer, yeah. It's bigger than what you think.
Next unfolding part of your journey. Now, when you say the voice, so we've talked about little B perfect. Do you, the narrator or the voice that comes through to you, which you've referred to sometimes here as the muse, does that have a name? Is it something inside? Is it something outside? Teach us a little bit about your relationship to your muse, because that part of you is so alive. And anyone who knows you knows that it isn't actually like a part of you, something separate. You're living in that fullness. And people, when they're self-expressed, and it's kind of rare actually to be in the presence of embodied, self-expressed beings who don't have this separate creative thing, but they're actually, has become who they are. It's rare, it's valuable, it's something that we would hope that we could experience in this lifetime. It doesn't happen for everybody.
Well, that's because, first of all, I call her She Who Whispers.
She Who Whispers.
And she whispers all the time. She whispers, and she's always there. She's always connecting me to what I call the eco-spiritual system. And what I know is that everybody has one. What has to happen is you have to shut down your monkey mind. You know that monkey mind, the one that says, oh, I can't do this. Only certain people can do this. I'm not a professional. I'm not trained. I don't know what I'm doing. If you shut that down, okay, and give free rein to what is coming through, which is what children do. You know? If you stuck creatively, go sit in a kindergarten class. Surround yourself with a bunch of babies and just be in their energy, because they got it. They got it. They have not been trained out of it.
So what happens to us? Is it like the story you told earlier about your father with the paintings? And do you think that those moments actually alter our access to it forever? And sometimes, like, if we don't pick it back up again,
if you don't pick it back up,
I mean, does she go to sleep? Does she just like go on dormant? Like, what happens?
Well, mine slapped me upside the head. You know what I'm saying? There's some research that shows that one of the things that happens If people don't use their creativity, they slide into Alzheimer's. People slide into depression. Sometimes folks go into addiction, various things, various mental upsets, When I was stabbing my poems, I was crazy.
That's a good line.
Yeah.
Stabbing my poems.
My poems.
You got to write that down or I'm going to take it from you.
So she's always there, but imagine somebody who's bringing you a gift and you keep saying, get back, I don't want it, I don't want it. In my case, she was so strong that I saw myself with a knife and it made me know, you are out of your mind. That's crazy, you know what I'm saying? So I know as a teacher, there's a couple of things that in my class, I always told people, you have a couple of taboos in my class. I forbid people to use the phrase, I can't. You can say, I am facing challenges on my way to succeeding. I am progressing with great effort. But I don't allow people to say, I can't. Okay. The other one that's taboo, especially with the young ones, is, I don't know. If somebody in my class, especially a young person, says to me, I don't know, I said, you know how that translates in my head? You just told me to fuck off.
You say, no,
Miss Teish, I don't mean that. I said, yeah, you do. Because you know.
You do know, yeah.
You do know. If you hear yourself say, I don't know, I want you to say, what do I know? And then let that answer emerge, because what happens to her is if you push she who whispers down into, if you suppress her so that she cannot create here, then she creates in the body with boils and blisters and cysts and cancers. And
yeah, this creativity has to get expressed. And I often think of it as like an atrophied muscle or something.
That's right.
That just, because it's not, creativity is not for people who are creative or artists. Everybody's creative. And when we don't do it, I do feel like we get sick. We turn on ourselves, and our consciousness, little be perfect, becomes the Gestapo.
Oh God, the Gestapo.
Yeah, and think how terrible we speak to ourselves until someone, hopefully you've entered into relationships with other women and men who have enough wisdom to pause you and say, you don't have to talk to yourself like that anymore.
Don't.
But most people, and they've found this across the whole world, all cultures, everyone has this. People become hard on themselves. In my experience, the more creative people become, the less relevant the bitchiness becomes, because you just don't even care anymore.
You don't care anymore. And differences, I was just in the concert, Jennifer Barrison's Song for All Beings.
I love that.
I live for those kinds of performances. And during the rehearsal, I took a seat behind the band so that I could see through the scrim for my cue, right? But I wasn't going to stand up the whole time. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching the shenanigans between the members of the band, in between the music, and I realized I am addicted to creative people. I have to be around creative people or I will dry up. I discovered that. I'm really addicted to creative people, and I will put myself in the presence of those who are creative, whether they know that I'm there or not. That's why I like to hang out where children are. They're amazing. Oh my goodness, the things that kids say to me, because they can feel that I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The babies come up to me and say, I remember this little boy, he was 4 years old, and he came up to me, I was sitting on the couch, and he put his elbow on the arm of the chair. And he put his hand on his chin and he said, yeah, do you know the migratory pattern of the African giraffe? And I said, no, baby, I don't. And he said, you don't? And I thought, this kid has been watching the Discovery Channel. He thinks I know. Did I tell him a story about a giraffe or something?
Right.
You know, but he was shocked
Right.
that I did not know the migratory pattern of the African giraffe. And so I had to go learn it.
Of course you did. I love that.
It, you know?
I was just thinking of one of my early students who was 7 years old. This was when I was 28 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And she was painting, and there was a parade that day, and I could hear the parade was coming, and I was like, hey, the parade's here. She's 7, so I'm thinking, okay. And she looks at me and she goes, I don't parade. I am an artist. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, and she said it like that, like, you know, like how that little boy did that. She said that. And then when her mom came to pick her up, she's like, what have you been doing? And she had this amazing painting of this very sensual little woman being who had love written on her body. And her mom's like, what have you been doing? She says, well, I went away. But then I returned to myself. Oh. And I got, in that moment, I was like, oh, she was actually traveling. And that's what happens in storytelling and poetry and traveling. Oh, yeah. You journey. Yes, I remember a time where I had lost my poetry. And when it came back, and I knew it was gone, but I didn't know where it went. And I was sort of like, well, whatever. And didn't treat it. I had also lost several of my other senses, so I was no longer amazed by a daffodil. That's how you know you're in trouble.
Oh, yeah, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went and heard other poets, which is a place when you're feeling that dried up, when you feel like you don't have access. I went to listen to other friends of ours, Kim Rosen and Jamie Sieber.
Oh, Jamie.
And they were playing, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the poetry and the song, poetry came back, but she was pissed. And I have a poem that says, I just gave it to you in the book, Tea with the Midnight Muse. Poetry came and took me by the scruff of my neck. Okay. And I said, you, poetry of all the muses, how can you be so rough? and it was like that. And I really felt as if the whole, in that moment of creating, it's on. There is nothing else. I really felt like she was just raking me across the coals. Wake up now.
Wake up now.
And then finally, like about an hour and a half later, I was like, and how can I tell other people what happened?
You can't
because this happened like a couple hours ago. I was not in myself for months and months, and now suddenly I'm here, and it was language and theater. Yep. And it jarred my muse back to waking, and that was that. But it felt rough. It actually felt violent.
Sometimes it is. If you being dominated by monkey mind, she'll slap you upside your head. I know mine will. Yeah. She will grab me, girl. What
are you doing?
Wrong with you? You gotta come to yourself, you know. And sometimes it's in the strangest ways. I love working with fabric, fiber, and paper. And sometimes, I mean, right now at my mother's house, you know how I don't have a car, so I shop. I get food delivered, and they wrap everything up in this corrugated cardboard and all these different kinds of paper. And I'm not a litter bug, you know, so
all that goes into the art?
Yes, I start tacking the paper up on the wall. And just before I came here, I started ironing some of the paper and saying, well, if I lay this piece this way and that piece, that's kind of like Molly Mudcloth. Isn't that interesting? You know, you got to play with it, and you got to not be afraid of what you create.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's straight out ugly by my judgment.
Yeah.
But what I've found is most of the time, if I think it's ugly and I just sort of lay it over there, somebody else walks in and goes, when did you do that? Like that? Take it, honey, take it. You know?
Well, because, right, it isn't about ugly and pretty, ultimately, when you're creating.
It's
and
not.
Sometimes it requires those shadows to come out and stir the sleeper.
Or they'll dance.
Well, we would love to do a red thread, so I'm extending some thread on over to you.
Okay.
And I invite you all to imagine that this sparkly red thread is winging through the cosmos to you right where you are. So just imagine with your child's imagination that you're seeing it, like rolling through space, gathering momentum and stardust and landing into each of the hands of the people gathered for this conversation. And just imagine that you now can feel the texture of it. And maybe you even have a ball of red thread. And one of the legends about the red thread is that they say that if you're going to meet, that's the Chinese legend.
That's right.
Other legends are about the blood and about the taboos. And for some traditions, it's an image of protection and warding off the evil eye. And some, it's about the life of the child. But it's this umbilical cord that is a legend in almost all major spiritual traditions, as well as continents. So it's this common thread that we have.
I love it.
Don't you love it? It's just so simple. And I just imagine that you have that. And what if you could feel the love on this thread? And what if you could feel that creative fire? What if we could send little sparks through the thread right to where you are? And what if your muse or some aspect of you has been sleeping that has been sparked? Has some little part of your mind or heart been like, ooh, I want to do that. I want to write a story. I want to make a painting. I want poetry to come and talk to me. I want my muse to slap me upside the head.
She will.
You know, just whatever came up for you in our time together. I just invite you to allow that to be real. Like, allow those little sparks, those fireflies under the willow tree.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
Be real.
Fireflies under the willow tree.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so what's speaking to your heart right now? And I encourage you, as soon as you're complete watching this, do not check your phone, do not do an email, do not get up from the table, pick up your pen and your paper and see what wants to be revealed.
Oh, yes.
Will you do that?
You'll be surprised.
Be surprised. Isn't that awesome to be surprised?
It's wonderful. I love it. I love it.
Well, thank you for coming to be in the conversation and along the red thread. It's always a delight to be in your presence.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, where are the scissors?
These are my grandmother's scissors.
Wow. Cut them right there, baby.
Grandma was a seamstress, so these are grandma's scissors.
I love working with fabric.
There you go.
Working with fabric. Right on.
Well, these days, are you teaching? Tell us about what you're teaching.
Well, I have a study group in a group of women in Tennessee. We do a class online called To Make Sacred, and they have made a 2-year commitment to studying with me to be on their spiritual path. The class that's open right now is called The Open Road, and in that I'm teaching people how to turn information received from oracles into ritual that help you to manifest what came up in the symbolism of the oracle, you know. And I have a couple of master classes online that you can get if you go to the Facebook page that is Yeye, Y-E-Y-E, Luisah Teish, LUISAHTEISH.com. There's places where you can register for that class. I'm also doing divinations for people so that you can find out what your personal myth is and
wonderful.
what energies are at work in your life. Leilani and I have a retreat coming up in March, and I've got 2 seminars coming up. One with the Shift Network called Transforming Aging.
I saw that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the other one is with Sounds True, and it's a year of ceremony. Now that one,
oh yeah, I saw that too.
yeah, that's going to be really interesting, because that one will really help to put people in touch with their muse, with their consciousness, you know. And this year I want to reinstate the Festival of the Bones, which I do for all of the ancestors in the community. And I'm really, really looking to do much more theater. I really want to do more ritual theater. I've got all kinds of scripts
I love
for us to start working with, and all kinds of works, especially around the sacredness of water.
So important right now.
Really.
Well, always, but right now.
It's important.
That website that you provided, is that the best place for people to find out more about what you're doing?
It's www.yeye, LuisahTeish.com.
Wonderful, and we'll be providing that to you as well.
Right on.
So, an invitation to study with this incredible teacher and storyteller that we're gifted to have in our presence and on the earth at this time.
Thank you.
To really show us the path to creativity and just all the stands that you make for us and on behalf of all of us. We just honor you and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ashe.
Thank you, dear ones, for joining us. It's such an honor to know that you spend your time with us, and my deepest heart is a wish for your own creative fire to really light you up. Really believe in creativity as a path of resiliency during hard times. And so may you go forth and create, dear ones. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Power Creatives TV Herstory with Luisah Teish.
Ashe.
Thank you, my dear.
Very good. Oh, this was good. This was a good session. Now, Teish, you see, this is where I have to have the conversation between my